You make me look like an idiot.
Yeah, no, it's great. You're doing well, dude.
Fun Times in Babylon. First one up.
Cool. This is so beautiful right here.
It is. The lights is on you very nicely.
Yeah. By the end of this interview, I'm going to be sunburnt.
Dude, that's the plan, man.
Thank you for coming on this show, being the first guest. Says a lot about you. I'm really excited to hear about your story, why you chose art, why you're still doing art, essentially your why.
Yeah.
Why you're doing this. And I got a lot of questions if you're ready to dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first things first, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about it and be curious about it. And you know, I'm very grateful that you find value in my work to speak on it. So
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
I won't even lie. For a while, it was just AJ's an artist, and I didn't really give you that time of day to look through what you had done. And then until like maybe 5 or 6 months ago, I really started to dive into your Instagram, see the things you've done, and realize like, oh, you're breaking ground on vulnerability, and I had to highlight you in this way, and flatter you. I want this to be flattering because I want it to be cool, and you to have that stage to talk about. I have like 6 subscribers. This isn't going anywhere big yet, but the idea is it will someday.
No, regardless, just giving me just a platform or just time to speak about it. It's my biggest passion. So whenever I get the opportunity to, it doesn't matter if it's in front of 1 person or 10. I'm just happy that someone finds it kind of interesting, or rather than going straight to judgment, is more curious about it. So thank you.
I think being curious is the most important thing we as adults can keep from childhood. So
I completely agree, my man.
with that, I will say, first things first, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo, my guy.
You've been a longtime friend of mine since like 2015.
Yeah.
Won't name the high school, but we went to high school together. We played lacrosse together.
Yes, sir.
And we had a deep found interest in the Edmonton Oilers together. Is there anything about that comes to mind when I bring that stuff up?
Yeah, Connor McDavid, for sure. Lots of conversations about him coming up and being the next Wayne Gretzky of that team. When I think about you, I specifically think about the NHL, like 16 soundtrack. Just banger after banger.
So good.
That on blast and just like, fist pumping and head banging.
Specifically, You're On by, Madion? That song, I remember you loving that artist and talking about that with me.
Yeah, I was really big into them in high school. I'm kind of strayed away from that kind of like metal of it, but I sometimes still dabble for the nostalgia for sure.
So from high school to now, it's like 8 years, give or take.
Dude, that's wild. Yeah, that's right.
You're a different person. You've gone from like a follower to a leader, a consumer to a creator. You physically have changed.
Thank you.
What started all of this?
Oh gosh, I guess it's, especially just looking back on the 8 years, I guess it's really a lot of domino like stuff. I guess in terms of transformation, I think the easiest one to kind of pick out of that would be my physical attributes. In terms of in high school, I was a bigger kid, and that was a lot of just habitual and just things I surrounded myself with that was kind of making me a little bit gluttonous.
Sure.
I would say, all in all my transformations have come like a bittersweetness.
Yeah.
Like in terms of, I had to lose myself to kind of find myself.
That's huge.
Both with, because I was in very, you don't know this probably about me, but I was at very different stages of my health where I was, overweight, and then when I was like severely underweight and had, a disorder in both of those. So a lot of my transformation and what I reveal in my work is really about the steps I need to take once like failing and how to approach it in a healthy manner. And I'm still I'm still working with that. You know,
Yeah.
like and all transformations that I've gone through.
Well, thanks for being willing
Yeah.
to talk about that, because
Please.
weight has always been something I've struggled with. I grew up where 3 of my sisters, they raised me, they had a hand in my development, and they were all going through high school. So you think just
Yeah.
statistically, that is a time for women to care a lot about their like self-image. And so that fed into me a lot. So my weight fluctuates a lot easily. So I see a lot of myself in that. You've gone through 2 harsh extremes though, and I appreciate you being willing to talk about that, because that is hard. And I'm sure
you.
as that metabolism like literally eats away your body, it's a scary experience
Yeah.
to be able to rein it in.
Definitely. Yeah, I think you said it perfectly.
Yeah. But that's a touchy subject. We can move on from that and to start talking about art more.
Yeah.
If that makes a little more sense.
Absolutely. But I will say, like that kind of mindset does have a lot to do with my work as well.
Yeah.
So I might be touching on that just as we talk about my work as well, if that's a conversation.
Go ahead.
That's okay.
So from that, how has that self-struggle, self-passion, and beauty from your own body being a canvas, how has that trickled into your art now? How do you see this weight fluctuation transferring to your hand?
Yeah. You know, so a big thing about like body image is obviously is pointed towards vanity. So when I was first starting out getting interested in art, like kind of weird how I fell into it, but I was more into painting and drawing and these more natural mediums or traditional mediums. And I felt very comfortable in those spaces and able to express in those spaces comfortably. But I got introduced to performance work, which opened up another element of me, revealing an aspect of me that I almost didn't want to reveal. Like I wasn't ready to reveal it, which I think is why it enticed me so much, was because I am and was somebody who was very vanity driven. Since I lost that weight and all that stuff during my journey as an artist.
Sure, you're getting a lot more attention from girls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I thought, how could I kind of expel this and expose like this side and kind of take away from this vanity, and performance art kind of gauged itself to be that, because in performance, there's not really much you can hide behind. You can't hide behind the canvas or the paint or anything. You are the medium. This is the physical element. Like there's no lying. So you know, my body is what it is, and I can't hide behind that.
When you say performance,
Yeah.
I don't exactly know what you mean right off the bat. Could
Yeah.
you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, of course. So performance art, it's it's a little niche. It's it can be a little strange to witness sometimes and see. But essentially, what performance is, performance art, it's using your body as the medium, or using labor as a medium, or time as a medium. Things that you can't necessarily make a print of. There are performance works that you are able to leave a mark. I've experimented in that. But it's mostly about kind of earthly bounds, physical, bodily bounds. A great way of putting it is Marina Abramovich once said, a great performance artist, like someone I look really high up to. She said that performance art is not theater, because in theater there's a fake blade and there's ketchup as blood, but in performance art there's a real blade at hand and there's real blood at stake. So it's
That's
really
intense.
grounded in reality. It's a very tense statement, and in no way I view my work as vulgar, like towards ever using those elements.
But that was the
yeah.
first thing that got you into the world, right?
Oh yeah.
That was your first step.
Oh,
That's very interesting.
Thank you.
You went from sketching, drawing, and then you went to ultimately what I see as the most intense or the most physically
Thank you, yeah.
inducive.
Yeah,
and that's an
thank
interesting jump.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I've always kind of been on the mindset too, is that if I'm going to be doing something, I want to do
Go
it
all
to
in.
its intensity.
Yeah.
So like I'm a cyclical person, and my artistic approach is cyclical.
We all are. Look at these seasons, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if I want to be in a season, I want to be like in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of goes with everything that I do in life.
That's beautiful. I'm going to put that on a poster someday.
Thank you, Fred.
That's cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Very cool. You're on a roll. Is there anything else you want to add about, like, I keep going back to from lacrosse to now? There's a lot of time that's passed. You jumped in first to performance. What's next in this?
Yeah. What's next, like after performance?
Yeah, in your storyline.
Interesting. I'm finding a lot of really great peace with performance work because it's a cathartic experience for me.
I can imagine.
So, what I aim to do is that I expel this work and then I form a new relationship with it, and I'm able to see it from a different angle and give it a new perspective. And maybe I try to show it as much love as I can and try to foster that relationship. But sometimes it can be kind of difficult.
Yeah.
So you have to keep experimenting with the same narrative, but in a different light of performance work. So I feel performance work comes in such variety that I'm not really seeing a next step in terms of where I am to go. I do find myself as an interdisciplinary artist, and I love the idea of working with wood and metal and sculpture, and I'm getting my MFA, so I'm looking to kind of experiment with those mediums when I get there. But occupationally, I'm looking to be an educator. I'd love the idea of guiding creativity for others. It's been so impactful for me. I would not be on this journey if it wasn't for the amazing educators I had at Wabash College, where I went to college. Who put me on this path, and I find just guiding creativity for others, for people to discover themselves, is one of the coolest things that you can do for somebody, is help them discover themselves a little bit more. And I find that way through art, and I kind of love that spark and that switch that flips in people's brains whenever they get creative, maybe for the first time, for the 10th time, whatever it may be. They'll find something. They'll find themselves something in that piece of paper.
Absolutely.
I find that just so fascinating.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Who inspired you the most, and what kind of people do you want to inspire?
That's a good question.
Thanks.
Who inspired me the most?
Was there anyone along the way that you were just like, oh, I can't do a marketing job. I have to put my body at stake for art. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of people or someone that has inspired me to put me on this path, I think it's very easy to look at the people I've never met, like other artists that I look up to and everything like that. But if I'm being honest, I don't think there's one necessarily person that inspired me. I think there's been a lot of people that I've really admired, like their abilities and what they did, and I wanted to emulate that. So I was curious and asked them a bunch of stuff. But if I were to point it to one person who put me on this performance path, like specifically performance path, it was this professor at Wabash. He noticed that I was comfortable with what I was doing. My narratives, they were decent and everything was good. Technically, it was fine, and I was coasting. I was kind of coasting with it, and I felt good about it, and I was making work that I felt very accomplished in. And I went to a lot of office hours, and one of the office hours I go in, and he goes, "You're getting way too comfortable, man. Like you're doing good, but you're getting way too comfortable at it." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's a good thing, right? Like if I'm getting comfortable with it, it means like I found a groove." And like you said, like if you're at a job, if you're doing marketing and you're getting call after call, and you're nailing all this stuff. Like that's a good thing. In my mind,
Absolutely.
I was like, oh, like thanks for the compliment, but he meant it in a negative way.
Yeah.
And he said, you need to look at like doing something else. And he pointed out a few books. He handed me a few books, and I got to reading. And one of them was about this performance artist. I'm going to butcher his name. He's Hechin Shea. I want to hope I nailed that. But he did durational work.
Yeah.
And this durational work, it was challenging. I mean, like, so he clocked in and clocked out of a time clocker, you know, for an hour an hour every day for a whole year, you know. And I was like, who in the hell would ever do that? But I saw the point he was trying to make, the point about the value over labor. And I just found that so fascinating. And every time I tried steering away from that and like flipping the page and trying to find a different medium to like work with, I could not stop thinking about it because there was so much to think about. So inevitably I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a narrative about it, a little like kind of thesis thing, and do performance work. And ever since then,
through that process, you started to lean into it more. You had more faith in the whole.
That's right. Yeah. He absolutely inspired me. Had great conversations with him about my work and
that's amazing.
All that. So definitely him. Sorry if that was a little bit of a tangent.
No, that's what I'm here for. I want you to go on tangents and talk about this. That's why.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because that's where the truth comes out. When you're so excited to talk about these things, you know, it goes out. But thank God for that teacher. Thank God for teachers that actually care about their students. Teachers that can notice the eye in a student that is looking for more, but they don't even know it yet. So they just give them a little nudge. Like, hey, have you ever considered, insert the name of that person that I can't even begin to pronounce, but that gets the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And then in your free time and alone time, you're becoming more formidable. You're strengthening your armor, and you're getting better at your craft, and that's beautiful for me. I'm happy that experience turned out that way, and it's still continuing to, you know, pour back into your life from that. Are you still in touch with that professor?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, I talked to him. Well, it's two professors. They're married. So I talk to them almost like very regularly,
Nice.
just with ideas I have and big time decisions that I sometimes have to make. So they were huge help with my MFA application and process. Yeah. But they just remain just such steadfast and consistent people and loving and caring. And I think it's very important to find those people in this realm as well. Any realm, any occupation that you have, finding people like them that encourage you only. Yeah. Even if it's, you know, they just bash you, like for your 3 years as an artist during your undergrad, and then, but it's in an encouraging and loving way. And they found that. And I really hope everybody's able to find that in their lives, or find people like that, because people like that are so impactful and just so lovely.
That's huge. Have you seen the movie Whiplash?
Yeah, of course. J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller. Yeah. Oh my gosh, fantastic.
You had any
movie.
professors like that?
No,
you said the word bash,
one, two.
So I thought, not quite my tempo.
Not quite my tempo. No, never like that. They're always artists are very tiptoey, like especially like educators too. They're always kind of like, well, like, how'd you mean? They're very soft, you know. How'd you mean by this? And they just want to dig deeper, and then they'll dig deep enough into like somebody's soul until they're like, the person realizes like, oh, we're at the pit of my soul right now. Like, how did you do that? Mm-hmm. So artists are kind of like,
it's all
conspiring.
Like,
you know, they're very, they know how to get down, and then all of a sudden you realize you're in this very like dark place, and you're like, how did you get me here?
How'd you get me here?
Yeah,
it was all part of the process.
Very soft voice to get you in there.
That's cool. So we've talked about personally like how your family and friends reacted to your change.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to talk more about that? How people perceived you, how you were able to ignore that, and how you've like used it as fuel?
Absolutely. You know, I think ignoring is such a tough word, because you can't ignore it. You know, as much as a soccer player on the field can ignore the fans, they can't. Like, they never really can. They're there. They're present.
It's a part of the game.
It's a part of the game. Absolutely, it's part of the game. But I guess initially, like, kind of starting out, you know, it was really tough, because I had a lot of friends, which wasn't something I necessarily felt like I had, like, in high school. So it was the first time where I had, like, a kind of like a large community of friends. Like, you know, I was in a fraternity as well, and all this stuff. And so then I was kind of doing these things that was almost socially outcasting, or could be perceived as such, you know, because it's, I'm familiar with my work. It's very easy to judge it, like, right away. And that's kind of, you know, that's also how people experience art, is to, you know, put judgment towards it. That's how they react, you know, it's in their nature to do so. But, you know, the conversations that I had were actually kind of minimal. It was more so the actions of people, and what they would say around me. So it was, like, very losing connections to people, and people not talking to me as often, and all this stuff, and hearing things from, you know, other people about what this person said about me, and, like, or all that. And, you know, like, it was part of it. I signed up for that, but at the same time, it still hurt my feelings, and, you know, but I think it's important to know that, looking back on it now, the friends that stuck around, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
The friends that, you know, approached my work with curiosity rather than judgment, are the ones who actually really cared about me.
They were able to see you change, and they were for it. They
Yeah,
were like,
exactly.
I think this has been brooding for a while. I'm excited to see this new AJ.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, and those were the friends that showed love rather than like frustration of, like, this change, I guess, if you want to say that.
I call it showing a mirror. I use this as, like, a metaphor in a lot of my personal ways, but usually it's the way I've rationalized why people don't like me. If I think that they don't like me as much or something like that, I'm usually reflecting something they're insecure about. So I think in your way, your creativity and your passion now for life probably made people along the way feel like, oh, why am I doing what I'm doing when I could be doing that? And a decision to stay where they are.
Well, hopefully, I guess that's a bit of my aim, you know. But
a big aim of this channel is to inspire people to follow things that they've been ignoring in the back of their heads. So,
yeah,
like,
I love that.
Yeah.
Something just to add, I guess, like, a little bit of an element towards this is that, weirdly enough, during this time of, you know, people, you know, people were kind of calling me, you know, like, a freak, you know, like, you know, what the hell happened to this guy? Like, he's off the wheels.
He used to be so good. He used to be so nice.
There you go. Yeah, like, oh, I remember him being nice or whatever. And, you know, just because I decided to put clamps on my body, it changes things. But, you know, to be fair, yeah, man, like, I get that, you know. Now everybody puts clamps on their nipples and calls it art, you know.
Would you say that was the piece where you finally leaned into it the most?
It was the piece where I felt most vulnerable.
Good for you.
Yeah. I mean, how
you
could
did
you
it.
not?
You finally did it.
Thank you. Yeah. And it made me feel more relaxed about easing into being vulnerable, like, more.
And how good did you feel after that piece?
Yeah, you know, it was healing. Like, if I were
You
to
said
put
cathartic. That's a good word for it.
Thank you. It was very cathartic. It was very healing, because, you know, for the longest time, you know, I kind of had, like, these body issues, and then being able to kind of just show everybody, like, hey, you know what, this is what I do. Like,
Oh my God.
Sorry, we got.
What's up?
Hi,
Can
how
we
are
move
you?
for you? What's going on? We are.
That was so funny.
What are the last things you want to say? Just like a little elevator pitch of what you want to promote with your art.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I've discovered a lot about myself through vulnerability, and I lived out a lot of my life, a good majority of it, of not being transparent and being dishonest with myself and with others. And through my work, I want to promote honesty and vulnerability and showing people that you can discover so much of yourself in that, like I have, and continue to do so. It takes a lot of courage to do it, but upon being vulnerable, even if it's in discussion, if it's with yourself, upon reflection, there's just so much clarity to it and just so much freedom. So, you know, if my work is it's like a totem pole for your judgments, that's fine. You know, let it be. Just let it be a reflection about you. And if my work is a totem about, you know, it's a positive one or a curious one that comes from a place of curiosity, that's fantastic too. And let that, you know, let those questions kind of fester about yourself. My work aims to promote just self-discovery. So I only want to discover myself further and allow other people to feel comfortable discovering themselves. If I'm able to put myself in not so great situations, then I hope it provides courage for other people to do the same. And you know, I might show it in very crazy forms where I expose, you know, the fat and skin on my body to the world. If that means I can do that, then I'm sure that you can be able to have a conversation about a healthy dialogue about the food that you're consuming with somebody or something like that. But again, I just want to thank you for letting me talk about my work and giving me a platform and a discussion to do so. And it brings me a lot of life to do this. And
me too, man.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You got me ready to go to the front lines of war.
With my very soft voice.
That's awesome. Yeah. Give me a hug, brother. Thank you so much.
Man. Dude,
you have a great day. Yeah.
You too.